Australia's residential construction industry has been on a wild ride since the pandemic, with price shocks, rate hikes and labour shortages hitting hard. But is the sector finally turning a corner? I'm Dion Besser and this is Beyond the Deal. Welcome to the program. Joining us now to unpack the state of the industry is Hazan, National President of the Housing Industry Association. Ian, thank you for joining us today. Let's start big picture. How does today's construction industry compare to post-COVID 2022?
So, detached home building is at its lowest volume in a decade. This slowdown has seen a stabilisation in pricing and builder insolvencies, but the cost of labour is still on the rise. Overall, the industry has learnt a lot from the pandemic period and is now a lot more robust and resilient.
Okay. And with material costs and trade shortages easing, can the industry plan better now?
Well, the industry can definitely plan better with more certainty. The pressures are still apparent, but not at the same levels as they were at the pandemic.
Okay.
The further we get away from that period of time, the more stable material prices appear. Price growth is back now below CPI, which is good. But it's still increasing because of resource and energy costs.
Okay.
Labour costs are still on the rise with our labour shortages, and this will have an impact on both the cost and time to build the homes.
Interesting, very interesting. And with the rates steady but possibly falling, what's the outlook for new builds and buyer confidence?
So prior to the cuts and post the pandemic, we did see market confidence growing. With further rate reductions, sales, building permits, approvals, loans and commencements have all started to rise. So that's a very good outlook. Any further rate cuts will improve buyer confidence further and be a very positive step in achieving the government's 1.2 million housing accord. I do see this being a more stable growth cycle and not a boom. With ongoing growth in the established market, this will support new home building for the next couple of years.
And that's a great segue into my next question. You know, talking about the 1.2 million homes in 5 years that the government has set a target for, what's actually needed to make this happen?
Well, the target is what we need to be building ongoing to meet our growing population.
So 200,000 a year ongoing.
200,000 a year. So the question is, how do we make achieving the target achievable and sustainable? So we need to supply of land. We need more trades and skilled labour to be able to build them. May mean accessing labour from overseas for a limited amount of time. We need a reduction in red tape to allow us to just get on and build and be more efficient. Long term, privatising planning and land approvals, taking it away from councils, and potentially substantial tax reform. 50% of the cost of building a home today is in taxes.
Wow, okay, that's an enormous amount. That's a huge percentage. And,
huge.
But I mean, are the government grants and infrastructure spending helping with any of this housing supply? Because they're spending quite a bit at the moment.
Definitely. Controlled and sustained incentives that stimulate demand for housing is great. Coupled with planning and regulatory reform that will allow the industry to meet the demand, because it is a supply and demand issue. Infrastructure investment to date is small, albeit welcomed, and it goes some way to alleviating the issues or go to the core of the supply problem. So any investment in infrastructure is welcomed. So
it's welcomed and it's helping, but it's not enough to really sustain the 200,000 homes that we need, not just in the next 5 years, but would you agree, moving past the 5-year target?
Definitely.
Needs more.
And it's also important to see that infrastructure should be a whole of community cost and not just borne by the developer or the purchasers within a particular estate.
Yeah, good point.
Which goes a long way to housing affordability as well.
Okay, very interesting. And moving forward, as we move into 2026 or get closer to 2026, what are the biggest opportunities or risks for the industry?
So our opportunity is to build homes to meet the demand and housing our communities. It's easier said than done. So what can we do? As I've mentioned previously, we need to supply land to meet the number of homes we want to build consistently. ideally we want one house, one approval, remove the red tape, the green tape, the white tapes, all the other tapes associated in building. Action to address both the short-term and long-term labour shortages, continued investment in infrastructure, and government policy to control inflation in the short and medium term.
Okay, so a lot of work in the next couple of years, it sounds like.
Plenty of work.
Wonderful. Ian, thank you very much for joining me today. This program is brought to you by Besser+Co Estate Agents. This is Ticker. We'll be right back.